Last week, the California State University Board of Trustees voted to raise student tuition over the next 5 years.
Here we are at the famous Cal Poly P, looking over the beautiful California Polytechnic State University.
As you can imagine, Cal Poly has grown so much over the years. It has gone from a small all-men's agricultural school to a world-renowned engineering university with multifaceted successes. But as Cal Poly itself has grown, so has the demand for a higher education in the United States, and consequently, the prices of tuition at all schools, including a vast and ongoing growth in tuition costs here at Cal Poly, bringing to light major issues on the accessibility of a college education right now and in the imminent future. Let's take a look at the prices to attend each CSU. Right off the bat, we can recognize the severe increase in tuition at Cal Poly compared to other CSUs. It's time to figure out why we are outliers. Do we deserve to have to pay this much for the same education that other CSU produce, or do we receive further resources and a greater quality of education?
Students who started in fall of 22 are paying one fee. The students who are starting in fall of 23 are paying a higher fee. The students who start in fall of 24, so it's slowly growing.
We conducted a survey that asked 150 of our fellow Cal Poly students how they felt about Cal Poly's tuition and the education they receive. 75% of our students pay in-state tuition and 25% pay out-of-state. The major difference between the tuition costs are astronomical. Between the last 4 years alone, tuition has risen around $7,000 for out-of-state tuition payers and has only risen about $800 for the in-state tuition payers.
As an international, I'm paying about, it's over 50K like per year. I don't know about specifics, but basically about 50K per year. We can't really apply for financial aid through organizations that people usually get financial aid from. Those, you have to be a US citizen or stuff like that. So I don't really get it from that. And the school tries to provide our resources, but there aren't that many. I've looked into them. But yeah.
The accessibility of financial aid was investigated as well. It was concluded that only 50% of those who responded said they did not receive financial aid, and those who did receive financial aid only received up to 25% of the overall Cal Poly costs. What we learned after speaking with a Cal Poly financial aid representative was that the bulk of the school's grant fund comes from the tuition fee revenue. However, there was previously no requirement for a portion of fee revenue to go towards Cal Poly sponsored grants, allowing tuition to be cheaper, but grant funds to be extremely limited. This was the case up until Cal Poly instated a new president in 2011.
When President Armstrong came to campus, and started looking at different fee structures, he was very concerned about the impact on low-income students. And so he actually dictated that any new fees at Cal Poly would have a financial aid component. One of the things that we discovered when we started really looking at things is that 5 years ago, a low-income student in California, if they were saying, can I go to Cal Poly, it would actually cost them more because we couldn't come up with enough financial aid. It would cost them more to go to Cal Poly than to go to, say, UCLA or UC Davis. And so, not surprisingly, even though we admitted our low-income students at an equal rate, we weren't yielding them. They were looking at us going, I'd love to come to Cal Poly, but I can't afford it. And they go someplace else.
These changes have been to create an impact on Cal Poly as a community, as reports say that for the last 6 years, each incoming class has been the university's most diverse ever. But more importantly, Cal Poly students are starting to feel this impact as well.
I receive mostly grants like Cal Grant, Pell Grant, grants from OCOB, like campus dining and housing grants. Yeah, it covers most of my tuition, which is honestly super grateful for because we only have to pay a little bit of it. So that was really helpful. And that hasn't really happened before. So.
I think everyone knew that Cal Poly is supposed to be a white college and all that. But the schools I was in before, those all were pretty white. But I think just coming here and just not being with that same community that I had originally begun with, it was it was a gradual transition, but it was just very eye-opening, I think, in general. It caused me to adjust a lot, but it took a while, but yeah.
The historical lack of catering towards grant funds and inclusivity of economically underprivileged communities is a major component to what caused Cal Poly to become the predominantly white institution that it is known as today. But one can only hope that students now, and in the future of the university, may be provided with more opportunities to grow and thrive as a part of the Cal Poly community.
I feel like Cal Poly is making a pretty substantial effort in target or just like giving more access and addressing like diversity issues and DEI and everything. And I think with the scholar program, I think that's pretty awesome. Like I live with them, and I think it's really important to like offer access. And I think it's great that Cal Poly was like, we're giving you money, we're giving you this scholarship to come here to get an education. Obviously, there can always be more, but I feel like they are working to balance our numbers in a sense.
At the end of the day, Cal Poly students and administrators face the unique challenge of deciding whether higher tuition fees are a viable option in order to form a more substantial impact on low-income students and help increase diversity, equity, and inclusion here at Cal Poly, or if this will just make higher education more and more difficult to obtain for students not qualifying for school-provided grants.
It doesn't help any student for us to say, oh, we're going to give every student this grant, but every student only gets $100. I mean, that just it's not impactful, and it doesn't really help anybody. Whereas if we can narrow down and focus to say, well, you know, based on financial aid methodology, who our neediest students are, if we can make an impactful grant of say $1,000 or $1,500, that makes more sense. So that's always one of the challenges with financial aid when we're trying to figure out how we can help students, is we want to spread it out as far as possible. We want to be able to impact as many students as we can, but we also want to make sure that that amount is still going to make a difference.